What if the ability to think through problems independently, confidently, and creatively was something you could actually build in your child? Not by drilling them, not by sending them to another tutoring program, but at the kitchen table with a book and a game. I'm here to show you that the right book, the right game, and 3 very specific questions are doing something to your child's brain that most parents are completely unaware of. And today, we're going to prove it with a picture book about a single dot and a game that looks a lot like Tic-Tac-Toe, but absolutely is not. Welcome to Think Through Play. I'm Anna, a mother of 8 with over 25 years of educational experience. Research shows that strategic play and reading build stronger thinkers. Here at Think Through Play, we use one book, one game, and 3 questions to help kids develop critical thinking skills that last a lifetime. Okay, this book, I need you to trust me on this one, especially if your kids are older, because when you first see it, you might think that's for babies. It is not for babies. It is for every child who has ever looked at a blank page and said, I can't. And honestly, it's for every adult who's ever felt that way too. The Dot by the author Peter Reynolds is about a little girl named Vashti who tells her art teacher she doesn't know how to draw. Her teacher doesn't argue with her, doesn't correct her. She simply says, just make a mark and see where it takes you. Vashti makes a dot, just one dot. And from that single choice, that single decision, an entire world opens up. Now, here's where Think Through Play comes in, because we just don't read a book and close the book. We ask one question after every story, the book question. What choice did the character make and why? For little ones, ages 5 to 7, the answer might simply be, she made a dot. And that's perfectly fine as a starting point. For kids 8 and up, you push deeper. Why do you think she chose to even try when she was scared? What do you think would have happened if she hadn't? This is not a comprehension quiz. This is something called metacognitive consolidation, a term from neuroscience that basically means helping the brain lock in what it just learned by making it think about the thinking. Harvard Center on the Developing Child identifies this kind of reflective processing as one of the core ways that children build executive function, the mental system responsible for planning, reasoning, and problem solving. You're not just asking a question, you're building neural architecture, and the reason that Dot pairs so perfectly with today's game is because Connect 4 is the board game version of Vashti's journey. Every move is a mark, and the player who thinks before they make that mark wins. If you want more videos just like this one, comment Connect 4. New videos drop regularly, and everyone pairs a book and a game to build your child's thinking skills. All right, Connect 4. Let's talk about what this game actually is, because most people have played it, and most people have completely underestimated it. When I show parents this game, I occasionally get, oh, that's just tic-tac-toe. It is not just tic-tac-toe. Tic-tac-toe is a solved game, meaning if both players know what they're doing, it always ends in a draw. Always. Every single time. There's nothing left to think about. Connect 4 has millions of possible board positions. And here's the kicker. You can't place a piece anywhere you want. Gravity controls the board. Your checker drops, which means every single decision you make now creates a structure that will matter 3, 4 moves later. Let me break down what's actually happening in your child's brain when they play this game. 1, forward planning. While a beginner is thinking one move ahead, a stronger player is running mental simulation. If I drop here, what does that allow my opponent to do? What does it allow me to do? Research on the executive function consistently shows this kind of predictive reasoning, called inhibitory control, is one of the strongest predictors of academic success from kindergarten through high school. Spatial reasoning, the diagonal wins, in Connect 4 doesn't exist when the game starts. Your child has to visualize the structure before it's built. That's spatial projection, a core STEM skill, the same cognitive process that engineers use when they mentally rotate a component before they model. In a 7-year-old at your kitchen table, 3 dual threat thinking. Here's the move that separates a casual player from a strategic one, setting up 2 winning possibilities at the same time so your opponent cannot block both. That is not luck. That is the kind of layered, multivariable reasoning we want children practicing. And 4, constraint-based logic. The center column is mathematically the most valuable position on the board. Children who discover this on their own through play and reflection are learning something important, that rules create constraints and constraints create strategy. That's the kind of systems thinking that shows up later in everything from coding to conflict resolution. A 2023 study published in Trends in Neuroscience and Education, a peer-reviewed journal, found that structured board game interventions improved working memory, inhibitory control, cognitive flexibility, and academic performance in children, not as side effect, as a direct measurable outcome. This is not games are good. This is neurological evidence that the right game, played with intention, trains executive function, the same executive function that Harvard identifies as functional for reasoning and problem solving. Okay, so you've read the dot, you've asked the question, now it's time to play. And here's how you make sure that the cognitive training is not just entertainment. While you play, you can occasionally slow down with prompts like, wait, before you drop that, what's your reasoning for that column? Do you see anything your opponent is building? Is there a move that does 2 things at once? You're not playing the game for them. You're slowing down their decision loop, inserting a pause between impulse and action. That pause is where critical thinking lives. And neuroscientist Andrew Huberman has discussed how play supports neuroplasticity and cognitive flexibility, specifically because it creates low-stakes, high-engagement environments for decision-making. Board games are that environment, and your voice asking that one question mid-game is what activates it. Now the game ends. Win or lose, it doesn't matter. What matters is what happens next. Here's where Think Through Play is different from every other games or educational channel you might have seen. We don't just play and walk away. We reflect every single time with the same 3 questions. The post-game question: what decision or choice mattered most in the game? The second post-game question: what would you change or do differently next time? That's it. 2 questions after every game, consistent every time. I want to be honest with you about why consistency matters here. It's not just because it reduces your mental load as a parent, though it does. It's because after enough repetitions, something remarkable happens. Your child starts answering those questions before you ask them. That is the goal. You're externalizing the mega cognitive prompt until it becomes internalized behavior. You're not just asking a child to reflect. You're teaching them how to reflect on their own. That skill travels. It shows up in the classroom, in conflict with friends, in every situation where they need to think before they act. Spencer, Richmond, and Cutting's research confirms that reflective questioning after problem solving takes tasks significantly strengthens the executive function systems tied to reasoning and comprehension. Your 3 questions aren't busy work. They are the mechanism. I want to tell you something personal for a moment. I grew up as a latchkey kid in New York City, spending afternoons at the public library while waiting to be picked up by my mother. Books were my first teachers. Then, when I had children of my own, 8 of them, all with different learning styles, I discovered that some of my kids who struggled most with reading were the strongest strategic thinkers at a board game, and still are to this day. They weren't behind, they were just learning differently. Games gave those kids a doorway. The questions gave them language for what they were already doing in their minds. That's Think Through Play. 1 book, 1 game, 3 questions, and a belief that every child, every single one, is a thinker. They just need the right environment to prove it. So this week, read The Dot by Peter Reynolds. Ask the question, then set up. Connect 4. Slow down one moment mid-game and finish with 2 reflective questions. Watch what happens. I promise you, it will surprise you, because at Think Through Play, play leads to thinking, and thinking leads to the joy of learning. If this supports your family, I'd love for you to stay with me here.